All right, welcome in Emergency Arrowhead Addict podcast. Patrick Allen, Matt Verderam here to bring you the latest on a huge week for the Chiefs, the Patrick Mahomes injury. Verderam, lay it on us. What's going on?
Patrick Mahomes will practice on Wednesday, according to head coach Andy Reid. Andy Reid says he is planning on having him do everything today, according to Ian Rappaport's tweet. I'm not watching Reid's presser right now, obviously, as we are doing this, but I am keeping up on everything. He went through the walkthrough. James Palmer just tweeted out the quote, Andy Reid said he might have to pull Patrick Mahomes back a little bit at practice this week because he always wants to go. So Reid doesn't believe Mahomes will have to rely on mental reps, and it sounds like Reid expects Mahomes to practice a good amount this week. It does not seem as though the Chiefs are going to be limiting Patrick Mahomes at all. Now, whether or not that ends up being the case, we're going to see in terms of, as they go through the day, there'll be a report later on whether or not it's limited or a full participation designation. But he will practice. He'll be out on the field. And so that portends pretty well. Now, look, we all knew he was going to play. That's not surprising. Right. The fact that he's practicing on a Wednesday is somewhat interesting. I thought it might be a little later in the week. The other thing that's interesting, Mecole Hardman will practice. So the Chiefs might be getting him back, apparently feeling better than he's felt in recent weeks. I've had a lot of people ask me if I thought he'd play. And my answer was, based on what we've seen and heard, no, probably not. I mean, it seems like he's had one setback after the next. Hopefully, he can get back out there. And then lastly, Jody Fortson, more likely than Edwards-Helaire to be activated for this game. According to Reid, says he's closer. So everybody is on the field and practicing for the Chiefs, including, of course, Godden Cleats, number 15.
Well, look, the stakes don't get much higher than playing to go to the Super Bowl, and they are only going to get higher if the Chiefs win and move on. Now, look, and you've been around the NFL for a long time. Situations like this, it's always kind of hard to know exactly what's going on, right? I mean, there's no reason for Andy Reid to give away any information, any more information than he has. So going into this game, it's not a huge advantage. Mahomes is going to play. But if you're the Bengals, you just don't know, and you probably won't know until he gets out on the field how limited he is by the injury, right? And there's no reason for Andy Reid to say, yeah, he's hobbling around out there, but he could stand in a pocket and throw, right?
Of course.
So how do you approach this? How do you expect the Chiefs to continue to approach the information on Mahomes and his injury leading up to the game here? And how much of an advantage is it for the Chiefs, for the Bengals, not to know exactly where Mahomes is at?
Well, before I answer that, I will answer that. Mahomes is now speaking. Says he's, quote, doing good. He's excited to get on the practice field today to test out the ankle. Said that the worst injury he's ever had was that turf toe injury for the 2020 AFC title game. Said that, according to Charles Goldman, he said that he had to curl his toes when he walked. And it's crazy. I went back and watched that game 2 nights ago because I was just curious. I'm like, I couldn't remember how limited he looked. He looks like he's not even hurt.
Right.
Like in that game, he's unbelievable. He's moving around. He's evading guy. He was insane. So if that's what he looks like on Sunday, that'll be interesting. As far as in terms of whether or not it's an advantage, look, I think this. Obviously, like we talked about on last Saturday's pod, I don't think it's an advantage, of course, that he's banged up, no matter what. But I will say this. If you're the Bengals, you have to prepare for him like he's 100%.
Right.
Because you can't prepare like he's not, and then all of a sudden he shows up and they put some Toradol on his ankle, and it's like, oh my God, he looks 100%. Like, you can't do that. If you're the Bengals, you have to prepare. Like, look, he's Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be Patrick Mahomes, and we have to adjust accordingly. I think the bigger thing in this week is going to be the emotional side of this for the Chiefs. Does the rest of the team raise its level saying, hey, we've got to, this guy always bails us out. Like, we've got to do everything possible around him. Andy Reid was on Tom Brady's podcast this week, and he talked about the fact, he's like, the offensive line knows it needs to step up. The offensive line knows it has to be better. That's going to be the big question here. Like, knowing it and saying it, that's all fine and well. You've got to do it. Like, do they actually do it? Do they step up? It's a huge question mark here. But everything today, at least, is about as positive as you could possibly get.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? If you're the Bengals, you don't know if he's going to be able to take off and run Did you think coming into this game that they might have a few more blitzes and things dialed up just in case Mahomes isn't able to evade the pass rush like he normally would? Or are they just going to kind of come in with the regular game plan? I mean, they've had success against the Chiefs. They've done pretty well defensively in spurts against this Kansas City offense.
I mean, look, the Bengals are going to come in extremely confident. I mean, how could you not? They've won all 3 of these games that they've played against Kansas City. The Chiefs are going to come in. Like, the Chiefs are going to be confident. I mean, they're the Chiefs. They're not going to walk in there like quaking in their boots or anything. But, it's a thing where, let's be honest. Like, of course, if you're a Bengals player, a coach, a fan of the Bengals, you should be confident. You'd be crazy not to be. By the way, Mahomes says, in response to a question about whether or not, or how he feels about being the underdog, he said, every time I walk onto that field, I don't think I'm an underdog. Okay. So take that for what it's worth. No, I just think, look, realistically, I could be wrong with this game. I think it's going to be a very physical football game. I know that sounds weird because both of these teams are kind of known for their passing games. And, passing games are always right or wrong equated to finesse teams. I do not think this is going to be a finesse game. I genuinely think the two teams aren't huge fans of each other. The Bengals probably feel like they don't get the respect they deserve, and rightfully so. Travis Kelce's talked about the fact that the Bengals just keep talking, and fair enough, they have the right to. I think this is going to be a very physical game. I think both sides should be confident. The Chiefs have gone to 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls, won one of them. The Bengals went the last 3 Super Bowls, beat the Chiefs the last 3 times they played them. Like, I think I don't think either team's going to be lacking for confidence, even though the Bengals have beaten the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs will be confident for other reasons. So, it's going to. I think it's going to be a really interesting game.
Do you think that the Bengals are look? They should be confident. They've beaten the Chiefs 3 straight times. They just whooped Buffalo in their own house,
Killed them.
But when you see guys like Eli Apple talking trash on Twitter, and you see them kind of going to the camera and calling it Burrowhead. He's won 1 game at Arrowhead.
He really has.
The same reason why we didn't like it ahead of the game last time when Reed was talking trash, and as fans, we were just like, come on, man, like don't it might not make that big of a difference, but don't give them anything to hang their hat on. We'd rather the team just go about their business and play football. Do you think that the Bengals have gotten a little full of themselves? Will it matter once they actually get on the field if a few of them are like, yeah, we own these guys, and and we kind of saw that with the Chiefs in spurts, right? Like where even the year after they won the Super Bowl, Frank Clark was like, yeah, we're going to win 1 million of these. And, in games throughout the course of that year, they won a bunch of games, but they almost got snuck up on a few times. What do you think the mentality is for Cincinnati right now?
I think the Bengals are rightfully really confident. I personally have no problem. Look, they want to go out and be like, hey, it's Burrowhead. Just go beat them. If you're the Chiefs, you lose to them every time you play them. I don't have any problem with that. I will say this. Eli Apple, it's a funny messenger to have it coming from him. He's maybe the 10th best player on that defense. It's like last year when the Chiefs beat the Bills in that 13 seconds game. If Ben Neiman had come out and been like, oh yeah, come get some. Really? Of all the people in the world, Ben Neiman's the one talking a whole bunch of trash, Dan Sorensen talking. It's weird. Let Jamar Chase talk trash. Let Mike Hilton talk trash. It's kind of odd that Eli Apple is the one who is just constantly running off at the mouth. But I think it's a weird game in this respect. The Bengals have played the card, and correctly, that they've been disrespected. Nobody believes in them, and it frankly, that it's BS, that the Chiefs and the Bills are seen as the 2 big dogs, and why aren't they seen in that same light or even better than it? The Bengals have every right to feel that way because it's been the case, and yet you enter this game and it's not the case. Everybody thinks the Bengals should be the favorite in this game, and they ought to win this game with Mahomes' ankle and everything else. The Bengals are favorites, slight, but favorites. The Chiefs, who are always the favorite, everywhere they play, they're the measuring stick. They're now somehow oddly thrust into this role of underdog at home in an AFC Championship game. I don't know that has any impact on the game. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But it's really interesting because these two teams find themselves in spots that they're never in. The Bengals are all of a sudden this big bad bully, and the Chiefs are this team that has to prove themselves. it's maybe not wrong, but it's interesting.
Yeah, it really is. It's sort of flipped. I mean, the Chiefs have never really been in this situation before, not like this. So it's going to be really fascinating to me. It's not like they don't play hard. I mean, you can't tell me they didn't want that win in the regular season this year when they played the Bengals. So it's hard to sit here and be like, oh yeah, well now they're really going to play hard because they've lost three times in a row. Like if they didn't come out and dominate them after they lost them in the AFC Championship game last year with a chance to go to the Super Bowl, they're probably just not capable of coming out and dominating them. The Bengals are really good. But I do think what's interesting to me is a lot of guys on the Chiefs when they played earlier this season were young. There was no Trent McDuffie was out for that game, right? Or was it his first game back?
No, he had been back for about a month at that point.
He'd been back. Okay, but
they were with Chiefs didn't have Tony, Hardman, and Tooney against the Bengals.
Got it. Yeah. So, things change quickly in the NFL. The Bengals are playing really good football right now, and the Chiefs are playing pretty good football too. I'm just really interested to see how the Chiefs respond to all of this. Being underdogs at their own stadium, having lost this team 3 times in a row. If you're Andy Reid, are you coming out with a different game plan? I mean, it hasn't really worked for you to the degree that you would like to. Look, let's be honest. How many points do the Chiefs need to score in this game to win? 33?
30. I think they get to 30, they won the game.
Right?
Maybe a little less. Maybe high 20s, 27, 28, something like that. It's
just the Chiefs. Look, the Chiefs have an average defense. They're good at some things, like rushing the passer. They struggle sometimes. They mightily in the red zone. Sometimes in coverage they're good. Sometimes they're not. They got a young secondary. So when you look at what's your leg up in this game, it has to be the offense. The offense has got to. Well, it's not that the defense can't do it, but like this Bengals offense is super dynamic.
It is. The Chiefs were the number 1 offense in the NFL all year long. And I have the feeling, I think the Chiefs are going to move the ball in this game. Like, I think they'll score their points. My question really is with the defense. Like, I went back and watched the film of the previous game, of the Bengals-Chiefs game. And the Chiefs defense in that game is just a disaster. I mean, the funny part is you look at the stats for Burrow and goes, 25 for 31, 2 touchdowns. I think they're 286 or 289, something like that. If you look at his numbers, you're like, oh my God, they're corners. The Chiefs corners were the only players on the field who did anything. They actually were good. Like McDuffie, one thing that I got to tell you, if you had told me before that game that this would have worked, I would have said, no way. McDuffie was actually really good on Jamar Chase. Like shockingly good. Like to the point that I would actually like maybe make that a matchup in this game from Kansas City. Now, to be fair, that was, Chase's first time seeing him. That could be totally different second time around. And it wasn't like they were on an island a lot together. But it was enough that you noticed it. It was enough that watching on film, you're like, man, he's really all over him. Like he's really in his hip pocket. Joshua Williams in that game of the corners struggled the most. Snead and McDuffie were excellent. Williams was up and down, I think is fair. Their problem in that game was Burrow, according to Football Outsiders, Aaron Schatz, who does great work. Burrow was 17 and 19 against zone coverage in that game. And I got to tell you, watching the film, that matches up. And I would be willing to bet of those 17 completions, at least 15 or 16 of them were between the numbers or dumped off to a running back. They killed the Chiefs linebackers in this game. Killed them. But the biggest problem in the game, more than anything else, was no pass rush. They just nothing up front. If they don't get home again, they will lose this game. If they get home with 4 and if I'm Spags, I'm playing less zone, more man. The Chiefs actually did a pretty good job in man. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than it was in zone. They made some of those throws pretty hard on Burrow. And in addition to that, I think with man coverage, you're not leaving those windows open where, Burrow's so accurate that if he gets good open windows and he has time, he's going to hit him. Like he's just going to hit him 9 to 10 times out of 10. I wonder if the Chiefs put more of Brian Cook in this game and they take one of these linebackers off the field. I wonder if the Chiefs go with a 4-1 dime look and just say, you know what? You want to run the ball, go nuts. I'm not saying you're going to see that on every down. Like, I don't think they do that on first down. But if it's second and long, third in a passing situation, I wonder if they take Gay off the field. I would take Bolton off the field, but they're going to take Gay off the field. And you put Cook out there and you play him like a linebacker and say, all right, he's either going to take man coverage on the back of the tight end, or he's going to be like that robber or lurker in the middle of the field. I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting thing. But if I'm the Chiefs, I'd play more man coverage in this game. I thought they actually were okay in that style the last time they played.
Yeah, I mean, watching the Buffalo game with Cincinnati, they were playing a lot of zone, and guys were just wide open. I think that was a really bad strategy in the snow in particular, because it slowed those guys in zone down even more, that they couldn't get in to fill those windows. And Burrow just picked them apart. I'm with you, man. I think Spagnuolo should mix up coverage like crazy in this game. I'd show a lot of blitz, then I'd drop guys back. I'd send corners. I'd do anything I could to just confuse Burrow, to make him hold that ball an extra second, because he's so good at getting it out. And then I'm with you. I would stay away from the zone and play a lot of man, and maybe, play zone over here and man over here, like really mix things up. I think it's going to, if Spagnuolo can come out with a really good game plan, I think that's the trick in this one, because if they're playing zone, it's just Burrow gets the ball out too fast. They're going to find these guys, the receivers are too good. I just don't see it working out for the Chiefs. I know everyone's scared of getting beat over the top with Chase, but like, I'd rather take pick your poison. I'd rather take that, because it's going to be a little bit harder of a throw to make.
They will look, if I am the Chiefs in this game, and by the way, if you're out here and you're a Bengals fan, you're listening, I'm curious to see your thoughts in the chat on this. And let me say up front, there's no like perfect answer. The Chiefs aren't limiting Cincinnati to 10 points. It's just like the other way around. These offenses and the quarterbacks are too good. Like, there's always going to be a counter to something. You just want to make it as hard as you can. I think if you're the Chiefs in this game, having watched the film in the last couple of games, watching the last game and having just remembered some of the other games, I think if you're Kansas City, you have to run a defense that makes it very hard to throw the ball between the numbers. You've got to force the ball to the outside. Now, listen, that's a dangerous thing, because when you do that, you can give up some more of those 1v1 throws down the sideline, and Chase and Higgins are big-bodied guys, okay? Your safeties are going to have to really be on top of that. But I do think if you let Burrow throw the ball down the numbers, inside the numbers, it makes it very difficult, because there's more field to work with. Guys are just going to have more space. I almost wonder in this game if these corners, if you put them up in press, which is, I get it, it's a risk. You put them on in press, and you put them on their inside shoulders and just say, look, you've got to play inside leverage. You've got to play a little bit of trail technique, get underneath these guys. Don't give them these comebackers. Don't give them these slants and these crossers. Make them run deeper routes down the field, and tell the safeties, if you see an in-breaking route, drive it. Drive it as hard as you can. Understanding you might give up a deep shot here and there. But if I'm the Chiefs, my thought is, if you're going to do that, you've got to get home. They got to get home, period, before. But if I'm the Chiefs, I'm willing to bet I can get home occasionally. I'm going to trust in my D-line at 55 sacks this year. And I'm going to take away all the easy stuff between the numbers. And if he's going to beat me, I'm using the sideline as an extra guy. And I'm telling those safeties, you are to come downhill in the middle of the field and to drive on any kind of route that comes across the middle. Now, listen, if you don't get home, you're getting beat either way. But I would at least try that and try to take some of that away in this game. Because if you can't, and it's just a bunch of pitch and catch over the middle, it's tough. I mean, now that game in week 13, the Chiefs, again, Burrow was 25-31. The Chiefs were winning in the fourth quarter with the football. Like, it was not by any means perfect. Now, look, Bengals dropped a touchdown pass. Okay, went from 7-3. Dunlap had a great play at the goal line. But you could also play the game the other way, too. Butker misses a field goal. Thornhill has a pick taken away from him that may or may not have been a penalty. He goes all the way back to the 9. I mean, so it is what it is. But that's how I'd play it if I were the Chiefs.
I agree. I just don't think you can come out there and do one thing against this team the whole game and expect that it's going to work. They've got to try to confuse Burrow. He gets that ball out so fast. Even if you are getting a good pass rush, it doesn't matter. So I'll be really interested to see. Look, Spagnuolo, he's done it before. I mean, he's reached into his bag of tricks and come up with some game plans in his career that have been really impactful when he was going up against a team that he was out, in terms of the offense versus his defense. The offense was better, and he's managed to find ways to slow it down. Boy, wouldn't you like to have Bill Belichick on the staff right about now?
Yes. Yes, I would. By the way, I think it's one thing I love that Andy did today, and it's a really little thing. It's a subtle thing. It's a really smart thing. They decide, of course, who speaks at these pressers, right? So it's on Wednesday. You're always going to get the coach. Usually get the quarterback as long as he's healthy. They could choose from anybody. Could have been Travis Kelce. Like, you have a lot of national media at these events now with the title games and of course the upcoming Super Bowl. Could have been Kelce. Could have been Chris Jones. Did you happen to notice who they put up at the presser today?
Was it Reed?
It was Justin Reed. That's not a coincidence, folks. Like that was a little bit of like you said last game, and you need to eat it. And guess what, Justin? You're going to go up and talk today. And he's talking right now, and he's saying all the right things. He's being really – somebody asked him about the Burrowhead comment. He's like, yeah, we all saw it. We're just going to let our play do the talking, and, we got to do a good job. And then now Nick Bolton's up, and Nick Bolton is soft-spoken. I'm sure he won't say it. But, like, it's just funny. Like, of all the people they could have chose for Wednesday, it was like, hey, Justin, why don't you go up there and have your moment in the sun here? Why don't you go talk? Okay. Yeah. Not an accident. So I think it was funny that they had Justin Reed go up there. Also, by the way, Mahomes ended his press conference by saying, we'll be ready and I'll be ready. And he hopped off the podium. So, and I say hop, like he kind of like, he walked down the steps, but he had a little bit of spring in his step. So we'll see. It wasn't wrapped. There's no brace on it. For whatever that's worth. I don't know how much it's worth.
Yeah, it's definitely shenanigans around these types of things. You don't know. But that's just good news. I mean, if what the Chiefs have been saying and what we've been hearing is in fact accurate, that this is less painful and less severe than these things happen on a spectrum, right? It's not like, oh yeah, well, you got an ankle sprain. Like I've had ankle sprains where, I used to run cross country, right? So I turned my ankles a lot. I've had ankle sprains where I just sit out a couple of days, and I had ankle sprains that had me on crutches. So you just don't know. And he might have been in a lot of pain that day, and they did treatment and it responded well to treatment, and he's feeling pretty good. And let's hope so, because they don't win without him being him.
No, they don't. And I saw Daniel in the chat asking, Matt, I saw you pick the Bengals, which I did on Stack in the Box. I get that given the history. Will you stick with it if Mahomes looks 75%? Yes, because they need to beat him. Prove it to me. Like I think this game, and we'll get into our picks on Thursday and whatnot, so I don't want to go too far into this, but look, I think this game is a coin flip. I really do. Like, I think this game, these two teams are excellent. And, the one thing that has been the case in these games when they've played each other, the Bengals have played very clean football. Yep. The Chiefs have not. The Chiefs have to prove they can beat this team. The Bengals don't have to prove it. The Bengals have beaten them in the regular season and the playoffs in both buildings. Like, I will say this. I genuinely believe if Mahomes is capable of being Mahomes to a reasonable degree, if the Chiefs play a clean game, if they play their best game, I think they will win the game. But they have not proven they can do that against this team.
Right.
And if this was the other way around, I always try to be honest. If it was the other way around and the Chiefs always beat the Bengals, and I thought it was a coin flip, I'd be, well, I'm taking the Chiefs. They always beat them. The Bengals always beat them. The Chiefs need to prove to me they can beat them. So, yeah, I am going to stick with it. But I think this I am more confident in my pick of the NFC game, which is Philly, than I am in the AFC game. I wouldn't be remotely surprised if Chiefs win the game at all. But I need to see them do it. They need to prove it. I think that's fair. And I see clips saying you got to stop calling these guys our big brother. Man, they kind of are, man. Like, they beat him every time they play him. I mean, they're not the Chiefs' big brother. Who is? Brady? I mean, the Bengals are their big brother till they beat him, in my opinion.
I see you mentioned the ring. That doesn't matter, man. I mean, we don't want to be like these Cowboys fans still strutting around being like, well, we got all these rings. Like, bro, it's the 90s.
Doesn't have anything to do with this game.
It's
Bengals have kicked their ass 3 games in a row. Let's call it what it is.
Yep. And if they win again, they get bragging rights, and we got to live through watching them knock us out of a chance to go to the Super Bowl for the second straight year. So good on the Bengals. Life isn't fair. Would we rather these two be going at each other 100% healthy? Sure. I'm sure Cincinnati would like to have its full complement of offensive linemen. No excuses. There's not going to be an asterisk that says, oh, well, Mahomes had a busted ankle, or if Cincy loses, they were missing their, a bunch of their offensive linemen. It don't matter at the end of the day. The Chiefs need to find a way to win. And I'll tell you what, regardless of the recent history, I like the chances with the brain trust that we have in Kansas City. I like their chances to pull something out, even if Mahomes is a little bit hobbled, because you got a Hall of Fame head coach there. It's going to be great. Look, we're going to get out of here. We're not going to do a whole show here. We got another show later today, Wacky Wednesday with Sterling and Adam Best. Verderame and I will be back tomorrow for our full game preview, when you'll get our picks. I still haven't decided who I'm picking in this game. This is a tough one, but you might be able to guess. All right, everybody. Lastly, before we go, just a reminder: if you like the Arrowhead Addict podcast, check out the links in the description. You can become a member. Leave us a positive review over on Apple. We'll read it on the show. But the good news, the reason we hopped on today, Patrick Mahomes is practicing. Went through the walkthrough this morning. Everybody's practicing. Hardman's practicing. That is good news. No matter which way you slice it, keep your eyes on arrowheadaddict.com. When the official injury report comes out, we'll find out who was limited, who was full participants. We'll have all that for you on the website. And then, of course, later tonight with Sterling and Adam Best. But for producer Richard, for Matt Verderame, my name is Patrick Allen. Things are looking sunny right now. We'll see how the rest of the week plays out. Until we see you again, go Chiefs.